Hello and welcome to another HanDrinksSolo wine info video, and today we are talking about Balea's Vinho Rochas red blend. Now Baleia as an estate is all on its little lonesome about 300 kilometers east of Cape Town. As you can probably see from the map, they are the only ones producing wine in this little region, which is known as the Lower Duiwenhoksrivier appellation or ward. But because the Lower Duiwenhoksrivier ward sounds about as romantic as a leaky colostomy bag, Baleia choose to bottle their wine under the appellation of Cape South Coast. Now the Cape South Coast is actually a whole bunch of regions grouped together, and it goes as far west as Elgin and then goes all the way over east, all the way up to Plettenberg Bay, where there are one or two producers messing about with Sauvignon Blanc and MCC and getting some really quite interesting results. But the point is that the Cape South Coast, while sounding more romantic than Lower Duiwenhoksrivier, is not specific enough to really be useful at all. So let's zoom in and get a little more specific. Baleia's red wines include a flagship range of a Tempranillo, a Syrah, and a fascinating little Pinot Noir, which is well worth hunting down. And of course, finally, there is the Vinho Rochas, which is the wine that we're tasting today. Vinho Rochas translated means wine from rocks, and it's a blend made up of the three red cultivars that we just mentioned, Tempranillo, Syrah, and Pinot Noir. The name, however, refers less to the cultivars and more to the fact that all three parcels of fruit are taken from very rocky, poor limestone soils, as you can see here. Now, these vineyards are not particularly high. They're about 100 meters above sea level, but they are only 9 kilometers from the ocean, which brings its own range of influences. Of course, when soils in a vineyard are very rocky and poor, they usually retain far less moisture. And so one of the results can be vines that produce fruit with a much higher level of concentration on account of the fact that there is less moisture left in the soil to be soaked up by the vines. When it comes to tasting what's in the glass, we could speculate for hours about the effects of coastal vineyards and whether or not salt settles on the skins, and if it does settle, whether or not it actually affects the flavor of the wine itself. But instead, I thought we should focus on a more interesting element, which is how the two main components, Syrah and Tempranillo, express themselves really, really clearly, almost in opposition to one another. If we give it a good sniff, I immediately get kind of herbal rocket leaf, a little bit of pepper spice, maybe some cloves, and then there is also some blackberry and lavender. And these are all aromas that I would associate with perhaps a slightly cooler climate Syrah. But as we sniff deeper, we also pick up some savory leather elements and some brighter kind of red cherry and even some raspberry notes, which I might associate with perhaps a Riojan Tempranillo wine. But aside from the amazing cultivar expressions of both the grapes in this blend, there are two more elements that I think tie the wine together. First of all, there's a lovely salty seam right down the middle, almost like a green olive brine that takes the fruit components of the two and melds them together. And then there is the texture. This wine is incredibly silky. And what it betrays is that winemaker Gunther Schultz is never in a hurry to overwork the grapes. And what he's done so beautifully is manage to present something that drinks like satin in a glass, even though it's made with two cultivars, Tempranillo and Syrah, that have the potential both to be medium to high tannin grapes. There is a small component, 6% of Pinot Noir, in the blend, and when you're trying to make something that is both serious and silky at the same time, Pinot Noir is never going to hurt your efforts. And you might say, Han, but what about the oak treatment? Is there any oak on this? Well, one of the reasons I haven't mentioned anything obvious like vanilla or toast or butterscotch or caramel is that this wine is matured mostly in old foudre, which bring less of an oak influence, but also partially in clay amphora, which is something that winemaker Gunther Schultz has been experimenting a little on both his white wines and his red wines. That is all we have time for today, but if you have any more questions about Tempranillo or Pinot Noir or Gunther Schultz or Baleia or the Lower Duiwenhoksrivier, feel free to leave them in the comment section below, and even better, leave a review so that I know what you think of this particular wine. And if you're watching it on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the HanDrinksSolo Wine Community channel so that you can stay up to date with the weekly wine videos I publish on South African winemakers, unusual cultivars, and some of the rising trends that are taking place in the South African winelands.